The Colorado Avalanche just won their first Stanley Cup in 21 years. The two-time defending Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning were finally dethroned by a team looking to become the NHL's next dynasty. The Avalanche are well positioned to become the NHL's next great team. Between their group of young stars, drafting and development, and pro scouting department and general management, the Avalanche are an organization run well from top to bottom that is destined for more success. The first thing to look to with any successful team is their core. Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, and Gabriel Landeskog make up the core of the Colorado Avalanche. All four of these players have been drafted and developed by the Avalanche and have blossomed over time into superstardom. Nathan MacKinnon had a slow start to his career by first overall pick standards. Drafted first in 2013, MacKinnon's first 300 regular season NHL games yielded him a total of 206 points. While this was a solid return, MacKinnon was not looking like the superstar that fans had expected him to be. In his fifth season, MacKinnon finally broke out. In the 5 seasons afterwards, and 338 games since, MacKinnon has scored 442 points and has been consistently one of the best players in the NHL. MacKinnon, for the past 5 years, has been the franchise piece that has led the Avalanche to many great seasons. MacKinnon is still only 26 years old. The guy that may take his place as the new face of the Avalanche is Cale Makar. Having just won the Conn Smythe Trophy as the MVP of the playoffs and the Norris Trophy as the best defenseman in the NHL, Makar has the potential to be the best defenseman of his generation. Makar is above a point per game in his short 3-year career, in both the regular season and the playoffs. Makar is still only 23 years old. Mikko Rantanen is yet another excellent player, a part of the Avs core. Rantanen gets overshadowed by how great MacKinnon and Makar are, but is still a superstar in his own right. Rantanen took 1 season to break out into a top-class forward, but since then has been excellent. Disregarding his first full season, Rantanen has scored 370 points in his 5 seasons and 324 games since. Rantanen also has excellent defensive metrics and is one of the most well-rounded star forwards in the NHL. Rantanen is still only 25 years old. Gabriel Landeskog is the least dynamic of the main core and has been with the Avs the longest. Landeskog leads the way as he was officially named the captain of the Avalanche on September 4th, 2012. Named captain as a 19-year-old, Landeskog is nearing 10 years as the Avs captain and is still only 29 years old. The combined average age of these 4 Avalanche stars is only 25.75, which is still incredibly young. Nathan MacKinnon will need a new contract in 2023-24, but the rest of the group is under contract until Rantanen's deal expires in 2025-26. There isn't any reason for this group to break apart for a very long time, and in the likely scenario that they stay together, the Avs are virtually guaranteed to at least make the playoffs and likely be cup contenders for the foreseeable future. The core became as good as they are because of Colorado's excellent drafting and development, and because of how great Colorado's development has been, their squad may not even be at their peak strength yet. Players like Alex Newhook and Bowen Byram were only drafted recently by the Avalanche, and yet are already playing significant roles on the team that look to grow bigger in the near future. Newhook is expected to step into the place of Nazem Kadri as the Avalanche's second-line center after Kadri likely departs in free agency. After a 6-game trial run in 2020-21, Newhook got the opportunity to play in his first full NHL season this year. Largely filling in on the third line and only playing around 13 minutes per game, Newhook did an excellent job in his first year. In 71 games, he scored 13 goals and added 20 assists for 33 total points, good for a points per game average of 0.46. In a larger role, and with potential opportunities on the power play in the future, the Avalanche could have another star in the making with Alex Newhook. On the back end, they have 2019 4th overall pick Bowen Byram. Byram has had a very tough go of things in his short career. A host of concussion symptoms and issues have limited Byram to only 49 regular season games throughout his 2 years in the NHL. However, Anyone who watched the Avalanche in this playoff run can see the potential is clearly there. Byram looks to be on the verge of blossoming into a top 4 or even top pair defenseman, and the sky's the limit as long as he's playing. These two, along with the core group, are the best recent examples of Colorado's excellent drafting and development. But it goes even further, helping in trades with players like Justin Barron and Drew Helleson. Both Barron and Helleson are former Avalanche defensive prospects, drafted in 2020 and 2019, respectively. Because Colorado made great selections, and the two played well while in their system, the Avs were able to ship both players out at the deadline for players that became crucial to their cup run. Justin Barron was the main piece, along with the 2024 second-round pick that went to the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for Artturi Lehkonen. Drew Helleson, along with the Avs' 2023 second, went to the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for Josh Manson. Because of Colorado's fantastic drafting and development, the Avalanche have potential stars in Newhook and Byram, and still had lots of leftover talent to move to help them win right now. Colorado has been incredibly successful in identifying the correct players to spend their assets on. Artturi Lehkonen scored the goal to send the Avalanche to the Cup final, while Josh Manson showed up as a clutch goal scorer and physical presence that stabilized the Avs throughout all 4 rounds. The Avalanche have been consistently excellent in the trade department. GM Joe Sakic and Colorado's pro scouting department have worked in tandem over the years to seek out quality players and then acquire them for cheap. This can range from high-profile trades like Darcy Kemper all the way down to waiver claims like Nicolas Aube-Kubel. 50% of Colorado's roster has been acquired in some sort of player acquisition, which is more than any other team that Colorado faced in the playoffs this year. Recently, they acquired players such as Lehkonen, Manson, and Aube-Kubel. These players are likely just to be rentals, who move on to different teams after their contracts expire this season. But Colorado has also been exceptional at trading for players that have helped the team massively in the long term. There are 3 key contributors in particular that have played 2 or more seasons with the Avalanche after being acquired in deals that have worked out brilliantly for Colorado. The first player acquired was a part of Joe Sakic's best deal as GM of the Avalanche, when Colorado traded away Matt Duchene. In return, as part of the 3-way deal, the Avalanche acquired 7 assets, 4 being from Ottawa and 3 from Nashville. The pick used to select Bowen Byram was from Ottawa's end, but the best player to this point came from Nashville. Samuel Girard, who had yet to break into the NHL prior to the trade, quickly developed into a top 4 defenseman for the Avalanche. To this point, he has played 335 regular season games and 44 playoff games for the Avs, while Matt Duchene and Kyle Turris both only played 2 and 3 full seasons for their respective teams. The Avalanche were smart to target Girard in the trade, and have massively improved their organization in acquiring those 7 assets for Duchene. 2 years later, the Avalanche made another move for another top-quality player. Longtime Avalanche defenseman Tyson Barrie, along with forward Alexander Kerfoot, were moved to the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for a 2020 third-round pick, Calle Rosen, and Nazem Kadri. The Leafs needed to move on from Kadri after yet another playoff suspension, a dangerous trend that seemed to happen every year. Kadri has had his ups and downs with the Avalanche, as his first year he was excellent in the playoffs, before he was again suspended the year afterwards. 2021-22 was when the trade truly paid off for the Avs. Tyson Barrie was already off of the Leafs roster, while Alexander Kerfoot had assumed the role of a middle six forward. Kadri scored at the best pace of his career, playing in 71 games and scoring 87 points, enough to place him in the top 20 in league-wide scoring despite missing many games and largely playing behind MacKinnon in the lineup. He also had the best playoff performances of his career, scoring clutch goals in important moments, highlighted by his Game 4 performance against the St. Louis Blues and his Cup final overtime winner. Kadri will likely move on after this season, as Colorado would struggle to fit his cap hit on a new deal under the cap ceiling. Still, with how crucial Kadri was to the success of the Avs this season, This was another excellent Sakic trade. The final massive win came in a trade with the New York Islanders. The Islanders needed to clear some cap room, and seeing the opportunity, the Avalanche pounced. Devon Toews was sent to the Avalanche in exchange for a 2021 second-round pick and a 2022 second-round pick. Since arriving in Colorado, Toews has been paired with Cale Makar. Him and Makar together have formed maybe the best defensive pairing in the NHL, and both were particularly great this season. Makar, of course, won the Norris and the Conn Smythe, but Toews was excellent in his own right. Averaging near a point per game for the first time in his career and eating up significant minutes, Devon Toews has been one of the best defensemen in the NHL in his 2 seasons with the Avalanche. Still under contract for 2 more seasons at only $4.1 million per year, Toews has immense value to Colorado that the team can thank Joe Sakic for seeing. Colorado showed that, when at their best, their style of play is nearly unstoppable. Their talent, their speed, their attacks off the rush, even the 2-time defending Cup champions couldn't cope with it. And, unfortunately for their rivals, there's no real reason that the Avalanche should be getting any worse over the coming years. Their young core will stay intact for the foreseeable future. The excellent drafting and development of the organization will allow for cheap, high-quality depth. And the moves made by Joe Sakic and the pro scouting team will allow for the rest of the roster to be filled out with good players for minimal assets. The Colorado Avalanche just claimed their first Stanley Cup, and with how well the organization is run and how good the roster is, don't be surprised if this is only one of many ahead of the next NHL dynasty.